if you go through the Bible, there is nowhere in the Bible where you will find God says, thou shalt not have sex. Nowhere. When you find it, let me know. I'm sure you will find it. All you will see that the Bible wrote is, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not fornicate, or the Bible was against sexual perversion and all of that. But as we stated earlier, that sex is spiritual, and now the average believer understands the soul tying thing that goes on in sex, and then they've now tried to be like, all right, I won't stay away from sex, I'll just masturbate. That's even worse, because you see, when you masturbate, you are actually having sexual intercourse with unseen forces, and 99.9% of the time they are demons. Hello beautiful people, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Zevida and I vlog on lifestyle, my faith, DIY and everything in between. So this video is going to be the fourth episode for the review of this powerful book titled On the Bread Wall White by Dannah Gresh, and the subtitle is 7 Secrets to Sexual Purity. So if you're here to watch episode 1, 2 and 3, the link is going to be in the description box, so you should go and watch it right now so you could understand what I'm saying here. And I'm going to be reading the last 5 chapters of this book. So let's get started. Now every chapter opens up with a celebration story, so I'll be reading the celebration story so you understand, and I'm reading chapter 13 to 17. Okay, the title is The Truth About Sex. It's out of this word, and understanding the heavenly purpose of sex. Now the celebration story. Written by Erin Davis on God's gift of sex. It started out as a nervous giggles and erupted into head, back, belly laughter. There we sat on the corners of our bed in our tiny honeymoon suit, still wearing our wedding clothes, without a clue on what next to do. Our commitment to a loving and holy Savior, and more important, his commitment to us, had kept us pure, helped us to save this moment for each other. What began as nervous uncertainty soon evolved into a passionate exchange of gifts. My gift to my husband, and his gift to me, was a level of intimacy reserved only for each other. As husband and wife, our offering to our Savior was a commandment followed, a commitment honored. We did not expect it, but we soon realized that his gift to us was more than we could ever have imagined. As we lay nestled together, listening to the waves crash against the shore, my groom whispered, "We are one." And I let a peace and comfort that I had never known envelop me. As our second wedding anniversary approaches, we still giggle with joy at the thought of the gifts God has given us, and stand amazed at the rewards that come with walking the path Jesus has paved for our marriage and ministry. Alright, so heading on to the main chapter, which is the truth about sex, like I said earlier. So she started the story with she and her husband on their wedding day, and I would love to read it out for you guys. She said here, "I lay with my body wedged into my new husband's, amazed at the gift of our first experience together. It was tender and fulfilling, proof of our love. It was awkward and unperfected, proof of our innocence. Never in all my life had I felt this warm and comforted, as if the world had stopped around me, simply so that I could really know and feel this moment." Bob began to move away from me. "No, don't go," I murmured, drawing him back to me. He turned and kissed me tenderly on my nose, then proceeded to get out of the bed. He tenderly and tightly wrapped me in the blanket and then knelt beside me. "Dannah, I want to pray," he said. "I want to thank God for this gift and beg his blessing upon our marriage bed, that we might always protect it." You see why I just love these stories? It made us understand that virginity goes both ways, because for a very long time, culture, society, and everyone who passed down values to us have told us that virginity, either maybe they did it unconsciously, we don't know, just have to forgive them, but they had made it seem as though virginity was just reserved for the ladies alone and guys could do whatever they want to do or go anyhow. But I must stress this, virginity goes both ways. From this story now, you could read that this lady was saying that she was giving herself as a gift to her husband, and her husband was doing the same thing in return. So that tells us it goes both ways. Society should really learn, or culture or values, or those people that are passing on values to the younger generation. Like you and I, we really need to learn to balance this and make them understand God sees both parties as the same. Virginity goes both ways. Offering yourself as a gift to your husband and to your wife go both ways. And now Dannah said something here. She said she made us understand that what you're exposed to on a daily basis is destructive to sex as God has planned it to be. And honestly, you know, all those pornography, masturbation, even not even for even movies. The average movie, especially American movie, has soft porn in it. So that's such that all you just want to watch is a good, decent movie, but you know the underlying thing they've added to it. And then it's just destructive to what God has planned sex to be. So if you attempt to base your sexual life in marriage based on what you see around you, you're going to be self-destruct, doing yourself a whole lot of harm, because everything you see around you is most of it completely against what God had ordained sex to be. So let's move on. And then she said that she realized that most of the shows in the 1990s, I can imagine what will happen in the 2000s now. They had 29 to 59% of sex in it as its major theme all the time. And that's the show the average teenage girl watches. And then she was like, even back then, sex was like the most searched word in the internet. Now, now we have gay, we have lesbian, we have so many things. It's still all connected to sex. But if sex was the most searched word back then on the internet, I can imagine the craze, the rave about it presently. Now, something she said there. She was like, as much as sex is that popular everywhere you turn to, is either they're telling you subtly or bold-faced sex, just like the church is not silent about it. And I'm like, maybe the church has this mindset of, I said maybe they have this mindset of, if we don't talk about it, if we pretend like it never existed, then maybe it will fade away. But really, the church really needs to do more. The church needs to do better. You need to do more. You need to do better, especially if you have been called to that ministry, if you have been called to a teenage kind of ministry or child or mentoring the younger folks. You need to do more about talking about it expressly. Now let's read what Ed Young wrote here. He said, based on what is depicted by the media, and any alien visitor to America would likely conclude that every person over the age of 12 is sexually active, that marriage is the last place to look for sexual satisfaction, that faithfulness is a nostalgic dream, and that even the sickest of sexual perversions is nothing less than every citizen's inalienable right. Sad. This would be true, of course, unless they happened to visit the church. Then they would probably wonder whatever became of sex. They might never hear it mentioned at all, or perhaps only spoken of in whispers or condemning tones. Historically, to its shame, the church has either ignored these God-given gifts of humanity, of human sexuality, or smothered it with an avalanche of thou shalt not. So I say again, if you go through the Bible, there is nowhere in the Bible where you will find God says thou shalt not have sex. Nowhere. When you find it, let me know. I'm sure you will find it. All you will see that the Bible wrote is thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not fornicate. But the Bible was against sexual perversion and all of that, but it never did say thou shalt not have sex. Sex is a gift from God to men in marriage. So he is not an enemy of sex, he's not against it, he's just against it when it's being misused or done wrongly. And I think we should tell the church that, so that you can come out in mass and then talk about it more to the younger folks, especially because people need answers. And if you don't talk about it, if you don't give them answers to their questions, they will go out there to get answers to it. And most of the time, they always get the wrong answers. But thankfully now we're having more books to talk about sex and how it's a wonderful gift of God to couples. So here she was talking about what sex really is, and she made us understand sex is a covenant. It's a covenant between two parties. So she said, and you will know that a covenant is an agreement between two parties. So it's a case of, if you do this, this is what you get. If you don't do this, if you break it, this is what you get. So she was saying that God desires to actually bless us, but most times when we violate those principles, the blessings will not come. And this world we live in is governed by principles, God-ordained principles. So when you're violating it, pardon me, you're actually causing the earth to work against you. It's just simple. This one is not even God now saying, I'm going to punish you. By default, the earth is working against you because you're violating its principles. Now she gave a definition of what the hymen is. Let me run through it. She said the hymen is named after the mythical god of marriage. It's a tiny little membrane which surrounds but does not entirely enclose the lower opening of your vagina. The hymen has no known function and never grows back after it has been dilated or torn. In some very rare instances, a baby girl is born without one, or a young girl's hymen can be torn through rigorous exercises or accidents. Let's pretend that it never ever existed. This does not erase the physical portrait that sexual union portrays of the spiritual truth of Christ and his beloved church. That's just the mystery behind sex that people don't get yet to understand. It's not just for fun. It's actually something it symbolizes. Yeah, she said that sexual union portrays of the spiritual truth of Christ and his beloved church. So I just want to stress here that sex is spiritual. Sex is spiritual. Sex is spiritual. I cannot stress this enough. It goes beyond just any physical activity you might be thinking of. Sex creates soul ties. It bonds your soul to another person's soul. Remember when the Bible says the two shall become one? Sex is that one thing that actually cements that those two in marriage becoming one. That's when you hear the marriage bed has been consummated. So now let's imagine that you go out, you sleep with this person, your soul is tied to that person. So something happened, and then you move off to another person, another part of your soul is tied to that person. I said sex cement. So now imagine that by the time you're pulling off, just imagine a place that has been cemented. By the time you want to break that cement, there is really no way you can break it and have a straight line. You're going to pull it out. The breaking will lead to a part of it will be here, a part of it will be there. So that's just how sex works. So by the time you begin to bond your soul on and on, so each person has a part of your soul, and then you are not even complete again. If a part of your essence is being drawn, you realize you function below expectation, you malfunction. But let me stress enough that as many people as had that soul tie connected and everything, there is mercy on the throne. There is mercy on the throne of Christ. Come to Christ. Let him wash you clean with his precious blood and help you sever those ties. So let's move on to chapter 14, the truth about sex getting down to earth. Let's read our celebration story from Lauren. I had been a Christian for 3 months when I attended a tiny little weekend retreat led by a young woman named Dannah Gresh. I was dating the guy who would lead me to Christ. It never occurred to me that his desire to have sex was out of sync with God's plan. But on that retreat, I learned that God had a different path for me, and I had a choice to walk it or ignore it. Thankfully, I had never given in to pressure to have sex, and I broke up with him immediately. It wasn't easy. My heart broke, and there were times I would want to run back to him. Dannah would encourage me that God had a better plan for me, and he did. When I was a freshman in college, I met a guy named Kevin Beckner. He was an amazing, godly guy. He told me that he wasn't even going to kiss his bride until they were at the marriage altar. I said, good luck finding that girl. But over the years, our friendship grew. One weekend, I went to Colorado with some girlfriends. Unknown to me, it was a setup. I was walking along the base of this majestic mountain near a crisp cool lake when who do I walk into but Kelvin? Right there in the most of a beautiful place you can imagine, he proposed. It was more romantic than I could have imagined. Now, something I want to stress in this celebration story is, she said she was dating a girl who had led her to Christ, and the girl was asking for sex, and she did not know that sex before marriage was actually not in line with God's plan for her. So I'm stressing that some people have actually had to have sexual encounters, intimacies before coming to Christ and having to understand that was out of sync of God's plan for your life. Like I said, there is mercy. Ask for forgiveness. Ask Him to restore you. There is mercy at the feet of Christ. He's ready to restore you. And I dare to say this, if you are in a relationship or you're having sex, it is not called dating. It is called fornication. So let's move to the main chapter, the truth about sex, getting down to earth. And the subtitle is Preparing to Enjoy the Earthly Gift of Sex. So she made us understand here that sex is a gift. And here's a story she said here. Let me read it out to you. She said, Red Book magazine once published a survey conducted by Robert and Amy. They took an in-depth study at the sex lives of 100,000 women. They labeled a portion of their respondents strongly religious. The strongly religious women seemed to be even more responsive than women of their age. They wrote, these women were more likely to experience a higher degree of sexual enjoyment and greater frequency in lovemaking experiences per month. Did you see that? With all I've seen in this book, and it was based on statistics, it just made me wonder who sowed the lie towards them that Christian relationship or Christian marriages are boring. Well, I know some are boring, but don't you have people of the world marriages that are boring? Why did we not capitalize on that? Why did we capitalize on Christian marriages being boring? Yes, she was saying the part of respondents who were strongly religious, they had much more sexual satisfaction in their relationship, marriage now, than people who were maybe not religious or any of or partly religious. Now she said, on the contrary, those who fail to wait tend to face obstacles in learning to have fun in their married sex lives. In what Hollywood won't tell you about sex, love, and dating, Greg Johnson says that he and his wife were virgins by God's grace when they got married, but they had been physical up to a certain point. And because of that sexual activity, they had trained our body to get to that point and stop. So when they got married, it took them several years of reconditioning to teach your body to enjoy sexual intimacy and get to the point where they were blessed by the fantastic fun of sex. Did you see that? That's why people who did not wait for marriage for started having sex had few less and lesser enjoyment. So I don't know why the world told us that you have to test the container. That nonsense language. I have to test the container before I buy it. Most of the expensive things you get are usually sealed up. You pay for it, you get home and get whatever you want. Then you don't have to test it. And then they were like, even people who had sex before marriage did not enjoy sex in their married bed. Then there was something he said there again. Okay, before I go to that, this is how it works. Let me tell you why sex before marriage really do pays. Some reasons now. Because it is the self-control that is key in here. So when you know that this guy was able to exercise self-control, that man was able to, or the party exercise self-control, and they waited, there was peace of mind in that union. But let's imagine both of you did not exercise self-control, you fell, you asked for forgiveness, you kept fell into your wedding day, also you just continue like that. Your spouse will not be with you 24/7. So let's imagine they have to travel for 2 weeks. Let's imagine your husband travel for 2 weeks now. And you, as the woman, maybe you've had babies, so tummy is quite bigger, your body's chubbier, the stretch marks are going to appear, and let's say that man has a skinny PA. That you will not have peace of mind, because you'll be like, this man that could not wait, or that could not exercise self-control when we're dating. Only God knows what he's doing right now. Before you know it, you're thinking, I really just hope that thought will not give her up attention. And when that man comes, instead of to give him peace and all of that, you're shouting, the voice of accusation will rise up in you, because of course you brooded the thoughts, and then will help you brood on it more. So you start shouting on him like, hey, where have you been? This one, that one. The same way, that man, wherever he is, he does not have peace of mind, because it's like, this girl that could not wait when we're dating, she could not wait for how many years? Hey, I just had to waste. How much she has not slept with the gate man? That's just by the way. But really, there's this peace of mind that comes with you guys having to wait when you were in courtship. That they won't give you some news about your wife. Even when you're seeing pictures, like, if you don't know what you're saying, that cannot be my wife. And another thing she said there was, she said, that's the story of what Hollywood won't tell you about sex, love, and dating, that he and his wife, they were virgins, but they had gotten physical to a point, and then they stopped. So by the time they got married, they had to now recondition our body to now enjoy sex. Because most Christians now know that, okay, sex creates so tight, so I want to have sex with everybody, but I can go out the way, I can do the cuddling, the kissing, all of that, and you are reconditioning your body, you are conditioning your body, such that when you get to marriage, your body is used to having fun and being satisfied at that level. So to now enjoy that intimacy and that fun again, it's difficult. You have to now, with the grace of God, now maybe recondition that body. So the best way is don't even. I know this is easier than said, but if you really make up your mind, the Holy Spirit will help you. He would help you, and He would help you. And if you have been following this book review, you would understand that He really gives grace. But you see those kissings, those cuddling, try your best to stay away from it. Honestly, try your best to stay away from it. Let's look at this scenario. Let's imagine this is the finishing line for runners. People will run in a race. This is a finishing line. They know this is a finishing line. They see the mark. They see the white thing, everything painted. But when they are running, they always cross it to the other end. They know that's the finishing line, but they always cross it. So the same way, if you guys are going to say that, oh, we'll just end up with kissing, it's a gradual process. You would always cross the line and move into something else. And because lust is never satisfied, it always wants more the next time you see. So from kissing, okay, we kiss for let's say 10 minutes today. The next day we say we want to kiss for 30 minutes. The next day we are doing full open mouth kissing, and then we are moving to cuddling, we're moving to petting. Every petting I'm putting is, of course, the line, yawas gas. But honestly, it's usually better and safer not to even attempt it in the first place. So that's everywhere. She's saying it. She says, I'm not saying that sex outside of marriage might not have some pleasurable moments, but it is a substitute for the real depth of pleasure that can be experienced within a faithful marriage, and it can really water down the pleasure you have with your husband. God is waiting to fill you with more blessings than you can imagine. Don't miss how much fun sex can be. If you will wait, then it will be exacting. The Bible clearly tells us that God will not withhold any good gift from His children. So when your father says, wait, darling, wait, sweetheart, then He really needs you to wait, because He knows what's the best for you. He has your best interest at heart. So He's working for your good. So He's telling you, baby girl, I see the future. So when I tell you wait, I need you to wait. All right. So let's move on. So no, first she told us sex is great. It's a great fun. So next she makes us understand sex is for making babies. And here she said here that the God of the universe has given you the incredible God-like gift of creating life. That's just amazing, having to birth another human. I don't think one person on this earth could actually begin to explain why or how one tiny round egg cells and one swimming sperm cells could turn into a vibrant life. But through the gift of sex, it does happen. You see, sex is wonderful. It's not something you should just give every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Forgive me if your name is Harry. But sex isn't just to be given to anybody. So your husband is for your wife within the marriage bed. So the next thing of sex, what it is now, is sex enhances intimacy. And now she said here, she was saying that most of the girls that I had to talk to her in a retreat center, they said they realized that sex outside of marriage really drove them apart than brought them together. You know, this kind of situation of, well, we're in a relationship and we want to really bond well, so we decided to have sex so we can really bond and understand each other. Now, it's going to drive you guys apart because you guys will be unable to build that friendship. The minute you see each other, instead of you to talk, all you want to do is just have sex. And this is how the circle of relationship and true marriage works. It starts from you guys being friends, from friends to lovers, from lovers back to friendship. So in that friendship stage is where you guys are supposed to bond, build all the intimacy you got. What am I saying, bonding? Sorry. Become friends, yeah, bond, still bond. I ask questions, but not cross the line to that intimacy level. You guys, you can still be lovers, but that friendship, you know, the gisting, the asking of questions, getting to know this person. This person is my friend. Like, I can call him there, like, guy, dude, I have this for you. When you're free, let me know, you know. Talk about their past experience, their childhood experience. That's the time to talk, really ask questions, know this person, enjoy being friends with this person, because at the long run, that's still what it's going to come back to. So if You have not built that. You have not done your assignment. You have not built that friendship. By the time it's coming back to that friendship, is going to crash because there is nothing for you to fall back on. Do you get me? And if you don't have anything to say, pray. Pray together. I'm a firm believer that prayer is is the ultimate love language. So pray together. It also helps you bond. So she says intimacy starts with something in your heart, not with your body. But within the marriage relationship, sex really enhances and creates a new level of intimacy within the marriage relationship. If you do that outside the marriage relationship, it's going to tear you guys apart. And it creates, that can be experienced between two fully faithful, committed, lifetime lovers. Did you get that? Two fully committed, faithful, lifetime lovers. And something I want to stress here, that we stated earlier that sex is spiritual, and now the average believer understands the soul tying thing that goes on in sex. And then they've now tried to be like, alright, I won't stay away from sex, I'll just masturbate. That's even worse. Because you see, when you masturbate, you are actually having sexual intercourse with unseen forces, and 99.9% of the time, they are demons. Let me put it to you this way. Sex is spiritual. That one is settled, right? And then for you to engage in that, reach that, is it organs? I'm not sure I'm getting the spelling right now, but you get the pronunciation right. I get what I'm trying to say. To reach that stage, for the man to ejaculate, there has to be some process to happen. You cannot achieve that by yourself. There has to be an aiding of someone or something other than yourself, because it was ordained to be two parts. Two parts are supposed to be the one to have to come together, have the intercourse, and reach that level together. But when you by yourself, with your own hand, now stay on your bed and want to work with sex toys or your hand, trust me, another force is aiding you to achieve that level of orgasm or ejaculation. And that force is demon. Because Holy Spirit will permit me to go deeper into it. I just really want to stress is that masturbation is even worse. Do not think you are safe within, I can masturbate, at least I'm not having sex. It is worse, because this one now you're even having sexual intercourse with demon who is sapping your energy, taking all your essence, and then using it for things you don't even want to imagine. And if you've noticed for those people that masturbate, and when you are doing masturbating, you feel very weak. You feel very weak. Like it's like your energy has been sapped out, and that is exactly what happens to you in the spirit realm that takes place in the spiritual, in the physical realm. So sex is spiritual, masturbation is even worse. Don't think you can hide under the comforts of masturbation. Alright, so some of you are saying, okay, so what should I do? Hand over to God. He wants to help you. It is possible. If I could have stayed free from it, then trust me, sexual period, I can tell you not boldly. See, I'm of the habit of, I don't preach what I don't practice. So when someone tells me this thing works, I go and practice it first, then I can preach it boldly. So if I'm telling you that sexual purity is possible, you can be clean body, soul, mind, and spirit, dealing with masturbation, it not having basing its ugly head again, then you can deal with it. The Holy Spirit is more than ready to help you. But I'm just telling you, masturbation is even worse. So do not think you are safe. Working with sex toys and all of that is worse. Do not think you are safe within that confines. The safest place is sexually pure. Or go and marry. And it's just you and your husband. Okay? Or your wife. So let me end this with here. She said here that God loves to bless us when we stay within the confines of his covenants, like I said, principles. He loves to bless us in 3 ways. If you wait, then it will be a blast. If you wait, then you will make babies with great celebration. If you wait, then you will be one. So let's move on to chapter 15, titled Not You Again, Satan. The subtitle is Facing the Consequences to Finding Healing. Our celebration story is by Dominique. And she said, I went to one of Dannah's conferences. I was healed. I felt pure. You see, I was raped by my family friend when I was around 6-year-old. And now being almost 16, I just told my parent. I had the feeling that I had been violated and that God looked down upon me because of my sexual history. But after coming to the conference, I felt so much like God still sees me the same way. Thanks so much, Dannah. So Dannah was saying she was in conference and she had to do like a retreat for ladies. And she said she made them understand that secrecy is actually one thing that aids sin. And that helps you not deal with forgiveness or help you not to receive forgiveness. So after she finished preaching, she said, so they're going to practice it now, that everybody has to start talking about that past or about eating sin that they just locked in one corner of their heart, and they've told themselves they're not going to share. And of course, no one was ready to talk, so she had to go first. And after she went, she said, come and say a lot of confessions. Women say something like, I've had abortion, one thing, I was sexually active before I was married, my husband doesn't know. And then tears were just flowing. One said she had abortion and then she felt her soul would never heal. Then she had another one again. And then there was just so many tears, embraces. Women was just embracing, healing and freedom was just coming. And at that time, people were actually getting healed. She was like, three things she learned from that meeting was, one, time did not heal those wounds. And I'm talking to people who must have faced some really hurting sexual pain right now. And then you're just really hurting. You're like, maybe you lost your virginity to a rapist, and then it's really hurting you because they're telling you, virginity. As much as that is key, that secondary virgins, God doesn't look down on you as though you are downcast or as though you cannot fulfill His purpose. You are still key in God's plan and purposes and agenda. So the other thing she said she learned was, she also learned that secrecy did not make any of those things less painful. When something happened to you and you're like, don't tell anyone about it, don't talk to it, don't talk about it, don't even think about it, then it will go, it's a lie. The pain stays there. So she was like, fact that those pain were much secrets did not make it less painful. And she said she learned that a simple tear-stained confession had helped those women move towards ending the imprisonment and beginning healing. And she was like, understand that God forgives, it just does not omit the consequences. Like I said, life is governed by principles. It's a law. You have sex, unprotected sex, you have a baby, you should not be surprised. You couldn't have gotten a plasma TV. Now that is like a law, principle that has been set down. So God forgives you. If you're having to battle with the consequences of what you've gone through, it doesn't mean God has not forgiven you. And she was saying here, she was like, God forgives, but as I told you in chapter 4, that forgiveness is immediate, but being forgiven is not the same as being restored or healed. Do you get that? The fact that He has forgiven you doesn't mean your life will just go 360 back to being restored or being healed. And most of the time, it's actually because sometimes the person in question, victim, I don't want to use the word victim, the person in question hasn't received that forgiveness or haven't let go of the pain. So they keep holding on to it and they think God hasn't forgiven them. Forgiveness is God's nature. He longs, like He wants to forgive you. And then she was saying here that one of the consequences of sexual sin comes when you have to talk about it to your loved ones. Trust me, I've had to experience a mini bit of a part, like where you have to sit your loved one down, like, listen, this is what I did. It just becomes like, those times when you might be having that sexual sin, to you it's not even sexual sin, to you it looks like enjoyment. You're chopping your life. I'm in my youth. I'm enjoying my youth. By the time you now really, your senses coming back to you gradually, you're maybe midlife, and you have to now sit down and talk to your loved one about it. That's when you now start regretting and all of that. But like I said, God forgives. If you can ask us forgiveness, He does forgives. So you now receive your forgiveness. Now there was one question here that they said she said she asked Dr. Dobson. Dr. Dobson is an author. He teaches on child training and all of that. He said the man says one of the number one question teenage girls ask their mom. Can you guess that question? The question is, Mom, did you wait? I completely agree, because even as a teenager, I had a question in my head, like, wanted to also ask your mom. I think I even did ask her at one point. And this question, if it was coming from a friend or a sister or a colleague, it doesn't carry much weight as it coming from your daughter. So at that point, you're like, even me when I read, like, Mom, did you wait? I was like, because this is one person where you want to be a role model to. And then them having to ask that question and you having to talk about those periods can be really painful. But again, the earlier you make that decision, the better. You can tell them, okay, well, I made some stupid decisions, but I'm back. I God openly retraced my step, and I did waited for, a couple of months or years. All right, so here. She says here that you would actually be believing Satan's lie if you think no one needs to know about your sin. And I can say this proudly because for years, I really felt that I can deal with this all by myself. Like, I was battling with one thing then, and I just felt I could deal with this all by myself. No one needs to hear. As much as I read books on talk to someone, I listened to messages of talk to someone, I say I'm going to deal with this thing. But when I got to the point I had to talk to someone about it, healing did come. So please leave that Satan's lie of you can heal, you don't need to talk to someone. Find someone to talk to, but not just anybody. Like you said, I would emphasize, not just anybody. Make sure these are preferably an elderly women that are usually much more advanced and they know how to handle the situation, and let them be of the same household of faith so they can reassure you of God's love, God's forgiveness, and then maybe they get to share their own story with you too. So, and then she emphasizes with James 5:16 that says, confess your sin to one another and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Now she said, it says the healing was something that would come more slowly and through the nurturing of other Christians as they verbalized to her God's loving forgiveness. Now she said here, in other words, speaking about it, she was like, speaking about it frees you and it frees others, because when you have to talk about your deepest secrets, there's this release that come, freedom, because you're like, see, like, I don't have anything to hide again. There's really no skeleton again. You can go and scatter the whole couple, there's no skeleton in the game. So you're like, it's like you're free. Not this one of they say, I know your secrets, and then your heart is shaking, but you are free. So it frees you, and then it just frees other person too. Now she said, don't let Satan's knowledge of what you have done blackmail you into silence. Do not talk to someone about it. Now she said, I'm not saying the whole world needs to know or about what you've done, but find someone who is older and wiser. That's key. And who is making right choices in her life, and confess. And she added, use great discretion in choosing this person and ask God for guidance. So don't waste any more years in hiding it. Use discretion in choosing this person, ask God for guidance, but talk to someone. So that brings us to chapter 16, and that's secret 7, purity watches burning flames. So let's run through our celebration story by Ladell. I hosted a retreat based upon And the Bride Wore White for 225 girls in my area. I felt that the session on giving up fake pearls for the pearl of great price was something I needed to really focus on. Just a few months earlier, my mother-in-law had passed away, and just before she died, she gave me several strands of pearls. I asked her if she cared if I used them for the retreat, and she said, goodness, no. Ladell, it is not what we'll take out of this world that matters. It is what we'll leave behind that will make a mark on people's lives. I shared this with the girls, and as they sat and pondered what they would commit to giving up by writing it on their fake pearl price tag, tears began to flow. And one by one, they came up, and as I tossed a price tag in the trash, I handed them a pearl for my mother-in-law. I miss her greatly, but I know that 225 girls will be part of her heart to keep them going in the right direction. Thank you, Dannah, so much for this wonderful material. I plan to do it again. So talking about purity watching burning flames, she was like, she got to the point where she was just really down. She really needed to confide in her husband. She says her past sexual sin was staring her in the face, and then she felt not capable of having to write this book because she was like, God, I don't feel, that clean as some of us do when God is sometimes calling us to do something. You're like, God, I don't feel capable. Well, you said think about it. God is calling you to do something and telling you don't feel capable. Like he did not know you were not capable, or you thought he had not made you capable without your knowing. And I also not tell you that who has the passion, who has the fire that can drive this thing. If God has given you this, then it's because he has made you capable to do it. And she said at that point when she was feeling down, the telephone broke the silence, and it was a call from Megan, one of our girls at the retreat, and Gabriel really needed to see her, so they fixed a date. And Gabriel needed her to talk to someone, put her on the right track, help her stand her ground, stay firm and everything. And she was like, in that moment, I'm looking for the exact word now, she was like, in that moment, she crawled back into her bed with the knowledge that God was using her in spite of who she was not because of who she was. Okay, so I'm trying to find an example that she was like, she crawled into her bed with the knowledge that God was using her. And this was not because of who she was, but because the ministry is not about her, but it's about him. I need to emphasize, most of the time when God tells you to start something, trust me, that thing is bigger than you. Let me say it again. It is bigger than you. It just really needs you to start. So when he begins to glorify himself in that ministry, or that thing is asking him to start, it is not because of you. It is because that work needs to be done. So do not chicken out and think that, God, I'm small, I'm not capable. He's calling you, he's sending you, and he's saying you go and get the necessary knowledge or equipment and get to work. Please do not chicken out. So here she said she learned a key lesson after that girl called her, that she realized that her life did turn out to be this good because she had older women to mentor her, to put her on the right track. Some practically dragged her, some pushed her, but then she was just so grateful she had them to mentor her. This thing they say that it takes a community to raise a child. So she said she was really glad she had them to mentor her, and then she made a decision to also mentor others. And then she wrote here, she was like, find a burning flame, my friend. What that simply means is get someone you can be accountable to, especially in the area of sexual purity or any other area, who can keep you on track. Get someone you can be attracted to, and they can put fire in your bum and tell you, no, this is wrong, you're not supposed to do this. And she was like, and promise me, she said, promise me that when someone else finds you, because that's just how it works, a younger generation is going to need you. Just like you needed an older generation, a younger generation is going to need you. So she was like, so promise me that when someone else finds you, no matter how old you are, no matter how clutter lies your past, no matter how busy you are, no matter how inferior you feel, you would be a burning flame to that person. It is important. I think there's a part in Timothy, is it Timothy now in the Bible, where it was saying that let the older women mentor the younger women. So it's important. As you progress in life, you would need younger people, or you will meet younger people who would need you to be a burning flame to their lives. And no matter how you feel as though your life isn't perfect at that time, a soul still needs you to help them. Alright. So that brings us to the end of chapter 16. So chapter 17 is the payment on the pearl continue. There's no celebration story for you. So chapter 17 is just all about a run through the 7 secrets that were revealed for chapter all through this book. So she'll say that even when you're married, you still need to remember this steps or this process or this secret. Because like I said, the fact that you're married does not mean that your sexual purity journey has ended. It's a continue. It's a never-ending journey. Do you get me? So she says that even when she's gotten married, she still needed to remember that purity is a process, because sometimes she messes up and she has to get back on track. So when she messes up, get back on track again. You don't mess up and then wallow in it. It's a process. You continue and get back on track. Second, she says she needs to remember that purity dreams of its future, because it keeps her marriage fresh. No matter how old you are, there's still a future you're looking forward to. So when you continue to look for that future, it actually keeps hope alive and keeps your marriage fresh. So she said she still needs to remember that purity is governed by its values, because sometimes she might forget and she might buy things in the store that she's not supposed to wear. Next, she said she still needs to remember that purity speaks boldly, so that she can keep Bob on track spiritually, and it does the same for her too. So you speak boldly, so even if this is your husband and he's even going the wrong way, you can speak boldly and then get him back on track, and he can do the same thing for you too. She said she still needs to remember that purity watches burning flames. You know that, right? Getting someone to mentor and get someone to mentor you to keep you on track. She also said she needs to remember that purity embraces wise guidance. And she said, but most of all, I need to always remind myself that purity loves its creator at all costs. At all costs. No matter what happens, purity loves its creator. There was a story she shared there. I'm just going to post it at the end of this video. So that brings us to the end of this video, this book review, and I really trust that you have been blessed. I trust you have been blessed. Okay, there's really something I want to read out under the appendix. She interviewed Josh McDowell, and she asked the question. This question is key, so I just really want you to just get it. And yeah, she said that she asked Josh that, okay, where would you encourage the girls to draw the line as far as physical contact is all about? Like, where would you encourage girls to get that right? And Josh said something. He said he always tells his guests to be his girls rather to be conservative. He says a practical example is know who you are dealing with. For example, let's say this guy you are with is a guy who came from a home where no one did care for him. There was no present father. The mother never showed him love. There was no aunt telling him he was loved and all of that. It was like a simple handshake, holding of hand for that guy would want to cause him to go all the way because he never really did experience love. So it was like anything you do to a person that would want to cause them to go all the way, you should put it on a check. And you know, the same way you could see someone who comes from a family that he experienced love all his life. There was mommy, there was daddy, there was sister, uncle, everyone telling him you're loved, you're loved. You know that kind of person. Even if you hug them, hugging is a normal thing in his family. Even kisses is a normal thing. So there is really no hug you give that person that wants to cause them to want to go all the way. So it's like conservative about it. Whatever you do to a fellow person that causes them to want to go all the way, then it should be checked. I think that answers a whole lot of questions. Questions coming from is kissing a sin, is God against kissing, or cuddling, the Bible says cuddling and all of that. So that brings us to the end of this book review. I trust you have been blessed. I trust you have been blessed. And that brings us to the end of this book review, and I trust you have been blessed about beyond what I've said. I trust the Holy Spirit to expand into your heart, to help you stand your ground, to help you remember that purity lost its creator at all costs. And on a final note, understand sexual purity is possible. Sexual purity is possible. No matter what you've done, no matter what you've gone through, it is possible. Alright, see you in the next video. Bye.